So designing a planner, in my opinion, is the hardest part of creating a planner. There's so many different aspects to it. You've got your layout and all your different design elements or themes. You've got colors, fonts, graphics, and stuff like that. So that's not even including like the page content that you want to have or your sections that you want to have. There's a lot that goes into the actual designing part of it. And once you have all of those elements decided, then it's actually pretty easy to go page through page and just start creating your actual planner. So in this video, we are going to go through different layouts, different possible themes, and different things that you're going to need in order to create your planner. And also I'm going to show you how you can do some research to figure out what exactly you want to have in your planner. So without further ado, let's get into it. Step number one is going to be choosing your format. This seems to be a pretty obvious first step, I think. So you may have already decided this, and if that's the case, you can just go ahead and skip on to step two. But if not, I'm going to give you some things to think about and consider to help you decide which planner is going to work best for you and your company and your goals. I'm also going to go over some pros and cons of each. So the three main formats that we're going to be considering are digital, printable, and printed. Digital planners are for use in programs like GoodNotes. They're usually going to contain lots of hyperlinks, and they are made to be fully digital. So you're obviously going to sell them digitally, your customer is going to use them digitally. And these planners are most often going to contain lots and lots of pages. You can create a simpler digital planner, but most of the ones you're going to see out on the market are going to have a lot of pages because this is your best opportunity to be able to have all those options, because if it's a printed planner, you end up with really big bulky planner, or maybe even two planners. So this digital form is a good way to be able to make basically a whole life planner, if you will. And that's the route most people usually do go, but again, you don't have to. You can make a simpler digital planner, maybe a super realistic one, but doesn't have like as many hyperlinks. I've seen those. Totally up to you, but that's what a digital planner is. And then we're going to look at, or the second one was a printable planner. And so this you're actually selling digitally, but it is meant to be printed. So you're still going to design it as if it's a printed planner, because the intention is for your customer to actually print it out. So it's not going to have the hyperlinks digital planners do. It's not meant to be used in any programs. It's meant to be printed out by your customer and bound whatever way they choose to bind it. A lot of times this way they can print as many pages as they want to print, the sections they want to print, so on and so forth. So it still does give you the option for a lot of customization, not quite as much as digital planners, but you have more customization options typically than you will with a printed planner. And then of course the third format is printed, and this is where you're printing it or you're sending it to a printer or manufacturer to be printed, but you're selling the finished product to your customer. You can do, maybe it's not the finished product, maybe it's like, inserts or something like that. Some people do for Happy Planner, or for people to put in a 3-ring binder or an A5 planner. You can do that as well, where you're just printing the pages and shipping it out, but typically you're going to have a full bound planner made. So now that we know what the three main types are, let's go over some pros and cons of creating and selling each. First, let's look at digital planners. Some pros of digital planners is that it's pretty passive income once you make it. Once the product is made, you put it out there and you can sell thousands of them, and you don't have to do any extra work for it other than maybe some messages for technical issues. The next pro is that it's low overhead cost. You have no actual cost of goods. You may have your costs if you're paying for InDesign, if you're hiring somebody to help you, or something like that. So there may be a few small costs when you're creating it, but broadly speaking, it's a low overhead cost. The next pro is that it's got limitless design features. So as I said before, you can offer lots and lots and lots of pages without having to print those pages or have your customer print those pages, giving you a lot more possibility. And then also, because it is low overhead costs and you have no inventory, it's also low risk because you're not worried about having to pay for inventory in advance, stock it, and possibly not be able to sell it. Now, some cons of making digital planners is that it's very time consuming to make. That is definitely going to be the most difficult one to make. Partly because, again, most people like to offer a lot of variation, but mainly due to hyperlinks. I know my digital planner had thousands of hyperlinks, and it takes a long time to add all of those hyperlinks. Another con is that it's a very competitive market. Because of the low overhead costs, because of the passive income they can be, you have a lot of competition, a lot of people making these planners and trying to sell them on places like Etsy. It's not to say that you can't plan them or sell them. It's just there's a much higher competition. It's going to be a little harder to get your foot in the door. Either you got to do really well with your marketing and advertising, or you're going to want to have a very unique product. Con number 3 is dealing with not so tech savvy customers. So whenever you're dealing with any kind of technology, you could run into some issues with bad reviews and lots of messages, and very often they could have nothing to do with your product. It could be the program that they're using has issues or bugs, or they just don't know how to use it properly. And those things will happen and they can be a pain, so just be prepared for that if you decide to make digital planners. And lastly, you'll most likely need to sell at a lower price point because of the competition, which is, not such a big deal because you don't have the cost of goods. But yeah, it's definitely, you're going to usually want to sell a higher amount of them in order to make decent money. Okay, now let's talk over the pros and cons of printable planners. Printable planner pros are passive income once made, similar to the digital products, low overhead cost for same reasons of the digital planners, can offer variations and add-on packs. So whether you sell them with that planner or you sell add-on packs after for extra money, you can do that. It's easier to make, much easier to make than a digital planner, so you have a lot of the same pros as digital planners, but you don't have the con of all of the hyperlinks, so it's a lot easier and quicker to make. And then the last pro is it offers customers more customization without a whole lot of work on your part, because you can allow the customers, maybe you add one page and then the customer can print it out as many times as they want. So they may end up with a 200-page planner in the end, but you've only created maybe 10 or 15 different pages. Some cons of printable planners, again, going to be kind of similar to the digital planners. You may have to deal with a lot of customer print issues, okay? Because printing is about your computer, it's about your printer. It's not typically really as much about your file, but some people are not good with that stuff, so you may run into customer complaints or people wanting you to help them out with printing their planner. It's also very high competition for the same reasons digital planners are, and another con is that it's easier for someone to steal than the other two, okay? Not that this should deter you, but just keep that in mind. With a digital, it's going to be a little more difficult to just steal it. With printed, they would have to actually copy it, recreate it. But with the printable version, they actually have to copy the PDF. And if they have a PDF editing program, they may be able to edit it a little bit, like the dates or whatnot, and kind of steal your planner. Again, people can really steal anything if they want to, so just to keep that in mind, okay? So the last con for printable would be you will likely need to sell it at a lower price point. Okay, so lastly, let's talk about the printed planners. We have the pros. It's much easier to design because you're typically going to have much fewer unique pages in a typical planner. Okay, if you're creating a journal, like some kind of, specific type of journal, and you want to have a lot of different sections and pages, this might not be the case. But for the most part, with your typical standard planner, a lot of the pages are going to be repeating. So it's going to be a little bit easier to design. And again, you're not dealing with hyperlinks. A big pro is there's a lot less competition than the other two. A lot less people are going out and making planners that they're making themselves because you have a higher overhead cost. You have to actually ship this stuff out yourself. There's just a lot more that goes into it. So the harder it's going to be to create, the fewer people that are going to be willing to do it, which is going to keep your competition lower. And for the printed, you can sell them for a lot more because of that lower competition. So for some cons for printed, it's higher overhead costs, as I mentioned. It's going to be a lot more for manufacturing than making yourself, as far as actual cost of goods. But either way, they're both a lot higher than what you would need for printable or digital. The next con is must physically create and or ship your orders. Okay, so whether you're making it yourself or whether you're having someone else make it, you're probably having to ship it out yourself unless you're paying, Amazon or some other third-party warehouse to ship it out for you, and that's just an extra cost. Either whether you're shipping it or not, it's going to be an extra cost. And then obviously a con is the cost of goods and the shipping costs themselves, and also the shipping materials. And another con is it's more limited in pages and sections that can be included. While I did have that as a pro because it's less you have to do, it's a little bit of a con because you're not able to offer as much variation to your customers. So you may not be giving as many customers what they would be looking for because you have less variation there. I mean, of course, you can create a bunch of different types of planners, and that works too. And then your inventory has an expiration date if you have dated planners manufactured. Okay, keep that in mind. Again, there's going to be a little bit of a difference between if you are printing it and making it yourself versus having it printed. So I make mine myself, so I don't worry about the expiration because I'm not printing it until a customer orders it. Those are the pros and cons of digital, of the three main types of planners. Step number 2, you want to consider your business goals. Okay, that's important when trying to decide what planner is going to be the best for you to sell. Here are some questions that you may want to think about that might help you figure out what's going to work best for you. So just kind of keep these in mind, answer them for yourself. Do you want to be a strictly planner business? Is that all you're going to be selling? Do you want to sell accessories like stickers, pens, and things like that? Which would make you more of a stationary business, if you will. Do you really want your main focus to be on the accessories and the planners are just kind of an extra? That's what I actually do. I sell more stickers than I do planners. Do you want your business to be passive income? Okay, so if you want your business to be more passive, then physical planners probably are not your best bet. You're going to want to stick with something that you can sell more digitally. Do you want to build a brand and maybe even expand to a brick and mortar store? If that's the case, then digital products are not going to be your best bet, most likely, because you're not going to sell digital products in a physical store. Is your business in a particular niche, say, and it's not necessarily a stationery business or a planner business? Maybe you have a different type of business and you thought, a planner in this particular niche would be a really awesome thing to sell. For example, maybe your niche is like gifts for nurses and you want to have a nursing student planner, or planners for nurses that are specific around them, and then you want to offer that in your store that is gifts for nurses. So you don't necessarily have to be or have a planner or stationery business in order to create planners for that business. So these are really all the things that you want to think about when you're deciding which format planner that you want to be creating. Try to envision where you want your business to go. That's the important thing. Where do you see yourself going in the future? Which direction are you planning to head into? There's so many possibilities. Figure out what works best for you, and then from there you can decide which format's going to be the best for you. Don't just jump on a bandwagon because you say, oh, these pros sound better than these cons. You really want to envision the future of your business. I'm just going to give you 3 more examples here to just give you an idea of like different possibilities of what I mean when I say think about your business and you know what you might want to choose. So if you really want to focus on, say, stickers or like widgets and add-on templates, say for a digital shop, then maybe you want to consider having like fewer planners, more minimalistic planners that people can customize themselves with those stickers and with those add-on packs. So you just have a basic simple planner to start with, and then you're going to want to sell them all of those add-ons, right? So then you maybe are only focused on creating a few digital planners and you want to keep them more basic. So that's something you need to think about when you're designing your actual layout. So another example is if you really want to focus just on planners and just offering tons of different themes. I mean, it could even be just tons of different covers and the planners on the inside are the same. Or maybe you want to have a ton of different layouts. Or maybe you want to have a planner for every different brand of dog. Totally up to you. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But you want to keep this in mind when you're designing your layout. If you design it in a smart way that makes it easier for you just to trade out. Say you make the first planner and now the second planner. The first planner is Golden Doodles and the second planner is going to be Huskies. Then you can just easily change out certain things of the planner to make them Huskies now, and with minimal effort you have a brand new planner geared more towards Husky owners and lovers than the Golden Doodle owners and lovers. So that's something you want to keep in mind while you're actually designing your planner. Okay, so then my third example here is like, let's say you want to have a printed planner store and you want to print them yourself or you want to have them manufactured. You want to think, do you want to offer a ton of different kinds of planners that are heavily themed and, you know, geared towards specific people? Or do you want your business to be more focused on all the accessories that you're going to sell with that? Because if that's the case, it's going to determine, if the latter is the case, it's going to determine what type of planner you're going to design. Because if you want to sell all of the stickers and pens and everything else that people can use to customize their planner as much as possible, you're going to want to keep your planner more simple. Right? You're not going to want a lot of crazy colors that they're going to have trouble covering up with stickers or that they have to then match their stickers with. You want to keep it nice and simple and clean, and then they are going to customize it themselves. So that's just, again, an example, something that you want to think about when you're deciding what type of layout planner, you know, you're going to have. Step number 3 is to choose what type of planner you want to create. This is different than the format, okay? So I'm going to give you some examples and you'll see what I mean by it being different. Some examples of types of planners you can create are your traditional planners, your daily, weekly, monthly planners, okay? That might probably is what you're here for, but that's a more traditional planner. But there's so many others you can have. You have health planners, business planners, fitness planners, budget planners, travel planners, homeschool planners, dream journals, spiritual religious journals. You can have gratitude journals, home planners, teacher student planners, or you can even have a more niche, like I discussed with the nursing, a specific type of student planner that's for nursing students or law students. There are tons, so many more than that. That's just an example of different types of planners that you can have. Think about what you might want to do there. Maybe you want to have some traditional, and then maybe you want to add in some of these others, right? It just depends on your business and what you're looking to do. And I talked about this a little bit before, but another thing you may want to think about is if you want dated versus undated. I mean, really, you can do both. I'd probably suggest doing both, but the difference is that dated planners, like I said, have an expiration date, okay? They're going to have to be updated every single year. If you have them manufactured, you're going to have to sell them before it's too late. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck with a bunch that are going to have to get thrown out. But even digital planners, like having to update those planners every year with all those dates and hyperlinks, it can be pretty time consuming, right? So you might think, oh, an undated planner sounds so much better. You're making it one time and then you never have to update it again unless you want to create a variation, and it's never going to expire, and you can have them printed and push them all, and you can sell them all throughout the year. You don't have to worry about having different dates throughout the middle of the year if you want to offer them all, sell them all year. However, keep in mind that the undated planners are far less popular than dated planners. Usually people don't want to have to do all that extra work. They just get their dated planner every year, and that's all in there, and they can worry about just planning and not filling it in. And believe it or not, a lot of people just hate their own handwriting too. So they don't want to have to put all that in there. So maybe have both, but just consider those things when you're deciding which one you want to create. Okay, let's jump into step number 4, which is do your research. Okay, so now you should have an idea of what layout, what format you want, what type of planner you want, and now we want to go and we want to research ideas for different layouts and design elements and so on and so forth, and we can do that together. So what I recommend is going on the internet and just researching all the different places you can think of that will show different examples of planners. I just want to be really, really clear on one thing. You are not going out to find someone to copy. You are just getting ideas of different types of elements you could include in your own planner. Okay, you want to think about, do you want boxes with rounded corners? Do you want dotted lines, like little dash lines instead of solid lines? Did you find something you really like, the way this graphic goes over the edge of the page or cuts into the lines on the side or is in the background, things like that, all right? So you're looking for different elements you may want to include, but you're not going to sit there and copy off of anybody. That's a big no-no. You wouldn't want anybody to do it to you after you put in all that work, so you won't do it to anybody else, right? Okay, just want to make sure I am not condoning going out and stealing anybody's stuff. So some ways you might want to search. You might want to think about searching in your own particular niche that you're trying, like the nursing example. Maybe you want to look up nursing planners specifically. If you want to make a daily planner, maybe you look up daily planners specifically. So let's jump into the computer, and I'm going to show you a couple different places that you can look, and you could possibly find some really good ideas on, and we'll see what's out there. Okay, so now that we're in the computer, I'm going to show you a few places that I like to go and look for some ideas for different themes and layouts and so on and so forth. I will be using the dog theme that I discussed in the first episode because that is the theme that I'm going to be using as an example throughout the series. So that's what I'm going to be looking up now, but of course you're going to want to look up anything that you might be interested in. If you don't have a particular theme like dogs, you can also just look up planners. You can look up minimalist planners or maybe soft planners or something like that, or just look up planners and start looking. That is totally up to you. If you're first starting out and you don't know what theme you're doing yet, then that might be a good choice. So we're going to go up here and we're just going to type in dog planners. That's what we're going to start with right now. And you can, just to let you know, come over to filters here and you can change this to physical or digital downloads if you want to look at just a specific type, but we're just going to look at all for right now. And one more thing I want to mention is you're going to see certain rows are going to say add by Etsy seller. I try not to click on those, otherwise the seller gets charged an ad fee, and since I know I'm not looking to purchase anything, I don't want to waste their money, and it's just something that I like to be kind and do. So now with that out of the way, let's look down. We can hover over some planners and see kind of what we're looking at here. And we're not just looking for the dogs, we're looking for particular layouts, right? So for example, this one's like a digital planner, but it's very, very simple. Other than the dog on the front, there's not really appeared to be anything it's about dogs, but it's not heavily themed, but this would be an example of a different type of planner you could have, because this is specifically for tracking different things for your dog, dental care. But what we're looking at right now mainly is layouts. And as you can see here, this is a very, very simple layout. This can be very easily created with just some tables. So it's not too much to see here. Let's go ahead and let's come over here. Let's see what these are. Pet care planner. Again, a lot of these seem to be pet care, but we can look and see maybe some of these design elements that they have. And see, these have a little more design elements. There's a little bit of colors here. We can see these boxes, these shadowed boxes, which is actually really cute. I like that. Adds a little depth. So if that's something that you like, you might want to do a little screenshot or write yourself a little note. But here's one important thing I wanted you to see, that there's cohesiveness to this planner. So all of the checkboxes are going to look like that. You're not going to have a checkbox with the drop shadow and then one that's just a plain checkbox with rounded corners, or something, a dot somewhere else. You want to keep things throughout the planner pretty cohesive. So I do like that. I like the little drop shadow boxes there. And then other than a little bit of color in here, there's not a whole lot. Okay, and I actually looked at this one before, and this one is just the dog themed cover, and everything else in here is pretty simple. And this is something you can absolutely do. You want to keep something nice and simple because anybody could really like it, and then you can just do the different covers to create a themed planner instead of doing anything on the inside here. That will make your job easier. Whether or not it'll be more popular with your customers, I couldn't say. Here we go. Here's some more pages. These are printable. This looks like a printable planner. They're not really showing the pages too much. Again, it looks fairly simple, but they do have what would look like, dividers almost with different dogs on it. That's an idea as well. And basically I just want to show you, we don't have to find everything, but I just want to show you the idea here that you can go on here and you can pick out different elements that you might like, that you think might be kind of cute to add in. Maybe you like the colors. These are very hard to see up close. Maybe you like the way they've highlighted every other line to make it easier to follow across. Maybe you like that there's nice colors added to the edge. Basically we're just looking for ideas here. That is the first place I like to go and look. I'm not going to go spend so long looking at all of this because you can do your own research. I'm just trying to show you some examples. This is a really cute cover. Let's see if there's anything special. Okay, see, now we're getting somewhere. You see how they have these cute little designs. Either, they bring the opacity down and put it in the back, which is something I'm definitely going to show you throughout the videos. Or maybe you have the table sitting on top of it. That's very cute. I haven't done anything like that before to use that as the background like that, and I do like that. You just want to keep in mind, if it's going over the edge like that, you're going to have a bleed all the way around. Typically, I would not do that. Is this a printable? I believe this is a printable planner. You know what? They didn't even put on here if it's a printable or not. Yes, printable planner. See, as cute as this is, I would stay away from going over the edge of any printable planners because a lot of printers won't print all the way to the edge. And if they don't, if you're intending your customer to cut it, a lot of times they're not going to have the proper cutters that they need for it. So that is something I would keep in mind when you're designing it, but totally up to you. If you're making it to print yourself, that's a super cute idea. And for digital, that works fine too. So this is how we get some ideas. You see, we're not going to steal the graphics specifically, but having that little bit in the back is quite cute. Here's one, lots of colors, lots of different bright colors if that's something you're interested in having. It's still fairly simple, meaning the boxes, there's not a lot of graphics and nothing like super crazy, but it does have some nice pops of colors. You can offer, if you wanted to, two different versions of the same planner, one more neutral and one with brighter colors. Ooh, these have lots of pops of colors. Lots of big text, and other than the text at the top, it doesn't feel quite so cohesive. Like, obviously this one sticks out like a lot. That's a lot of color right there. It doesn't feel all that cohesive to me. I think the only thing it seems like it's tying everything together is the top of the pages, but maybe that's just me being nitpicky. But something you want to look at. If you look at that and you think, oh, it looks too mishmashy, the pages don't look like they actually go together, then you know that's something you want to be careful of not doing yourself. So that's always a nice thing to think about as well. So I think that's as far as we're going to go right now with dog planners in here. Again, you can just do regular planners and so many come up. I mean, it's nice if you can narrow it down a bit. I would say majority of these traditional planners are going to be quite minimalist on the inside. I think when we jump over to Canva right now, you're going to see a little more variety in the themes. Like, this is cute. This gives you a good idea. See how they have the colors, the way it's almost like highlighted but off a little bit. It's very cute. The font's cute. The way they have these sections here that are separated, not just a bunch of lines, but you have color. And you can absolutely do that. Again, like we discussed earlier, you want to think about, what you want to sell other than planners in your business, but super cute. Okay. If you like that idea, you're like, oh, that's cute. I like the way that looks. Jot it down or do a screenshot. So let's go ahead and move over to Canva because that's the second place I like to look. I love to go into Canva. You can also do this in Adobe Express. I use Adobe Express a lot too, but I know Canva's more popular at this point right now. So let's go in here and let's just start with planner pages this time. And maybe not jump right into the dog pages so we can see a few more ideas. And these are templates you could use. I wouldn't just use one of these templates myself. I would maybe use it to get design elements off of, but you technically can. I just like to go in here to get some ideas. Like, okay, so it's cute, simple. This might be better for, say, a notepad than a planner, but you could absolutely always have this in your planner. If we're making like a smaller planner, a smaller size planner, maybe you want something more simple like this because you can only fit so much on a page. As I said before, you'll see a lot more in Canva's more themed pages. Again, I feel like a lot of these are better for actual like pads of paper, like daily planner that people rip off and throw away each day, but you can absolutely see with the graphics over the edges, you can create that yourself. And then the colored boxes, very cute. So just, type it in, scroll down. Oh, that's cute. I guess it's just a weekday planner. I've actually never seen that, but maybe someone might be interested in that. If they don't have a lot going on the weekends, that could be cute too. Or maybe you can see, this is what I'm talking about. So you like this idea. It's got a little picture here, and then you have the lines. Maybe you make this, 4 different days, and you do a spread of this, and that's your horizontal layout, but you add the little photos in there. I mean, that's a cute idea too if you're having a more themed planner, and that's how you can take these ideas and make them your own. You can see everything here. Well, that one's very, very bright, very again, kind of specific with the drop shadow here. Gives it a little dimension. You've got lots of bright colors in there if that's something you're looking for. Okay, so let's go ahead and type in dog planners and let's see what comes up here. So this isn't dogs, but how cute is that? You can easily put a dog here. Maybe you put a little bone here. Maybe you change up the colors a little bit. It's a good starting point. It's kind of cute the way it has the color on the top and the bottom. Again, this would be better for digital, or if you are printing it, maybe not so much printed. I would stay away from anything going over the edge. Not so much as far as dog planners themselves. Here's a good example. We've got the just little pictures of dogs around there. But so generally you get the idea. Lots of different layouts in here. Lots of different ideas if you want something especially a little more funky. There's not as much, basic in here. But if you're looking for something more themed, that's a good place to go. Okay, so the next place that you can look at is Amazon, and you can just type planners here, and then you can kind of see, what people have here. Usually there's going to be some pages of the inside just to give you kind of an idea. And the nice thing about Amazon is you actually even see the reviews that people leave. So you can tell if people are liking it or not liking it. So let's look at a couple different planners. Again, see, very simple on the inside. And people are more purchasing for the cover itself. Let's see if we wanted to look up something else. Let's say we want to say nursing planners. I know I've mentioned that a bunch of times, but well, it's cute. Nurse in Progress. They have a video to show the inside pages. Fairly simple, but it does look like they have a little bit added in there. That's another thing. See, that was a cute idea right there in that video. Maybe having some coloring pages throughout, or maybe the dividers that you create for your printed planner, maybe that has more like coloring book on there, just the lines that people can color in it each month and design themselves. You can also do that with digital planners and printed, obviously, but that's a cute idea too. Actually, I might want to add that into one of my planners. I actually really like that idea. Okay, so the next place that we're going to go to is over here to Google, and we can just type in planners. You can also type in planner design, things like that. But let's go ahead to planners. We're going to look at images. Let's be a little more specific here. Let's say hourly planners, right? Maybe I want to make an hourly planner. Let's look at the possibilities. Here's some cute ideas. See, that's not bad. Simple, but it actually has a little something. You don't even have to leave it gray. You can do some light pastel colors or something like that. You can make these lines dotted. You can just... Here is a good example to show you how making a few changes can really make your planner look different. Because if you actually look at these pages, they're all the same layout. Every single one of these is the same layout. Well, I mean, the top three and the bottom three are the same in general. But so if we just look at these three, they're the same exact layout. They've just changed a few things. Like this is super simple. It's just black and gray and white. And then you come over here and we've added more color. We've added a little style, to the boxes here and made it a little girly, maybe, I guess, and added some colors here. And then over here, it's still more like the simple side. It's not quite as artistic, I guess, as this, but they've added some colors in here just to give it a little something extra. And so what you could easily do, right, is to create something like this first. And then this is the great thing about InDesign, because later on it will be nice and easy to go and just change these few elements to create a whole other planner, and then change these few elements to create a whole other planner. And so in not much extra time, you can get 3 planners where 1 was created. So I like to say that's a good idea, something to think about when you're creating and designing your planner. So I'm happy I actually came across this. It's such a great example to show you how you want to think about designing your planner, because if you start with a simpler one like this, then it will be easier to make those changes later. I mean, you can start with something like this or like this. It's a little more in depth. I feel like start with the simplest and then add to it. I mean, that makes the most sense to me, but that is completely up to you. So let's go back over here. Great example. We have some daily planners. Again, people love this off the edge thing. I do too. It's just not always, unless you're having things printed, manufactured, it's not always the best, but it looks really cute, doesn't it? Again, super simple. Here they have the rounded boxes, which I've talked about plenty of times. They, for some reason, are one of my favorite things. I mean, this is even a possibility too. I never see anybody do anything like this for printed. Usually something like this is for digital, but I mean, I guess you could, where you hold your planner to the side, more like a notepad, versus, spreads. That's absolutely a possibility as well. And that would actually be kind of unique, I think. I don't see very many like that. Maybe because no one wants them, but maybe not. Maybe just no one thinks of making them. All right, so that's Google. And then the last place I want to show you is Pinterest. Pinterest usually has some pretty good ideas for everything. Let's look up doggy planners again. Different design elements. Oh, that's cute. Look at the little calendars. Again, this is something that you might want to consider that's a little bit different, is having, instead of having the month up top, you have the month up the side. If you're doing a full page month like that, that's awfully cute. A lot of times people have notes bars on the side to leave notes for the month, but maybe instead of doing that, you want to instead of having the notes bar, maybe you have the month on the side, or maybe you move the whole planner up. Super cute. I like this idea. So maybe instead of having the notes bar on the side and the date up top, you can have the date here, the month here, and then move the planner up a bit, and then just do some long notes lines on the bottom instead, and that'll give you this cute little feature. I mean, you can get rid of the notes altogether if that's what you wanted to do, but this is a really cute idea. I like this as well. Anyway, I don't want to hold you. There's still a lot more to go through in the video. I just wanted to be able to jump in here and show you exactly how you can go and find all kinds of cute ideas to get the juices flowing, if you will, because it can get overwhelming sometimes. It always helps. Oh, I really like these colors. Let's look at these colors. Again, super simple. And actually, look, see here, they did a little white frame around the outside, basically left a little bit of white there, and it actually looks fine with this pattern. This pattern is super cute. But the actual contents itself is very simple. They just added a little paw here, added the frame around the outside, and let's see, can we see some more of these little elements here? Again, it's cohesive. They have the rounded corners. They have the shaded in header sections, right? They're going to have the same fonts throughout. So that's something you're going to want to pick a style and stick with it for at least that same planner throughout. And see how nice and cohesive it looks. But yes, cute idea. And if you really want to have something in the background like that, if you find a pattern that works well with a little white frame around it, that could actually work for printable. And so the customer doesn't have to worry about printing to the edge. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. So those are just a few places that you can look. There are tons more out there of places that you can go and check. And so maybe just have fun with it, man. Just search and find all these cute little ideas and do screenshots and write your ideas down and get ready to finish the planning process here so that we can then jump in and start creating our planners. All right, let's jump into step number 5, where we're going to decide on our layouts and our sizes of our planners. Let's talk about some different sizes that you might possibly consider for each different type of planner. So first we're going to look at the printed planner because it's typically going to have the biggest variation in sizes. And check out this list here. These are your typical planner sizes. If you are sending these to a printer, you may want to find out if there's any big price difference. If there's an odd size, it might cost you a little bit more for them to create it and print it. There might be a lot of waste. Also, if you are creating the planners yourself, you might want to consider that as well. So for digital planners, this is going to be in pixels. It's not going to be in inches or centimeters or millimeters or whatnot. I'm going to tell you the size that I recommend and that I use, but do your research and also try out and see what will possibly work best for you. But my recommended size is 3508 by 2480 pixels. And you want a resolution of about 300. That's good. But what you want to keep in mind, sure, you can have a higher resolution. Absolutely. But what you want to keep in mind is that the higher the resolution is, the bigger the file is, the slower it's going to make their program. And it's going to end up with some lag. So really the idea is to find the sweet spot, one that looks crisp and clean and has a good resolution, but not one too big that it creates lag in GoodNotes. Again, you can Google this and research it. There's plenty out there talking about the different sizes. But what I would recommend is that you start with one, and then I would export it, maybe create one tester page, export it, bring it into probably GoodNotes, because I think that's the most popular one that people use. But maybe you want to bring it in Notion or something like that, and see what it looks like, right? Zoom in, zoom out, and test that out for yourself. That's what I would recommend before going in and creating the entire planner, because it really stinks and if you get in there and then find out it's just not working well. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I created some digital planners and they're like 900 pages, so they are quite large. So as far as printable, okay, it's going to be quite similar to printed, and I'm going to talk about this later when we go to set up the documents. But what you want to think about for printed is you want your customer to be able to print it with ease and to be able to punch whatever holes they need without punching into like any text or anything on the pages. If your printable planner is meant so that they can print what pages they want and put it in what order they want, you're going to want to set your margins up a little bit differently. And again, I'm going to show this, but the important thing you want to think about when it comes to the size you choose is most likely your customer's printing this at home doesn't have a big guillotine cutter the way people who make planners have. So if you were to design something that needs to be cut down to an odd size like 7x9, it might not work the best because they probably don't have a way to cut those pages down. It's not to say you have to do it letter size, but I would go with one of the more typical size paper that you would be able to find in the store on Amazon that you can print on your printer with. So you can do smaller sizes, but just do your research and figure out what's some other standard sizes of paper that it's easy for people to get their hands on, and make sure you let them know the sizes. So like if I was selling printable planners, which I had planned to, but haven't gotten around to, I would probably offer variations in sizes at least. If I wanted to offer, say, smaller printable, like half letter size, I might also offer it, well, that one's kind of a big difference, but I would probably also at least offer regular letter as well if you can do that with your layout. So now let's talk about what type of layout you would like. Okay, so what type of layout, what you're thinking about when it comes to the layout, because that was the sizes. Let's discuss the layout part of it. And so like for print, your layout's really not going to be as important, right? Because you're printing it, you're going to print it in typical spreads. You're going to be looking at it, you're going to design it, you're going to print it yourself, you know how you're going to cut it, you know how you're going to punch it, and that's there's very small ways you're going to lay out depending on what size you choose. You're basically going to print them in spreads. And as I just discussed with printable, it's going to be a little bit different because you need to think of how they might want to print it out, what's on the front, what's on the back. You might want your margins to be the same on both sides. That way it doesn't matter if they're printing it, what side of the page they're printing it on, they still have enough margin. Other things you might want to think about, like if you're doing tabs versus no tabs, if you're doing coil versus like coil bound or wire bound versus hardbook bound, because you might need a different margin in the center for that. If you're intending to have something printed at printers and you already know the printer, you might want to check with them as to what they prefer the margin to be. But we'll go over this in the document setup, and as long as you're close, it'll be pretty easy to make small adjustments if you don't have a printer yet. But that's just something to keep in mind. So for digital planners, this is where your layout, you're going to have more variation to, more possibilities to your layout. Because for digital planners, some people like to do the portrait view. So you hold your iPad up like this, and it's like a bigger space for you to write in. Some like to do it landscape. So where you're holding your iPad like that, or your tablet. like that. And even in landscape, a lot of times you'll see either they might do one big page, or they might make it look like a spread with like a fake coil and whatnot. And you want to think about how you want to lay that out, because when it comes to your digital layout, you're not going to be actually creating spreads. It's actually going to be one page, but you're going to make it look like it's a spread. I will show you in the document setup, or if you want to know now, you can go back and check the video that I did on creating a digital planner. So finally, last step, step 6, and that is choosing your themes and styles. And this is probably the most fun part, but might be the most overwhelming if you have trouble narrowing things down like I do. You just think too many things are cute. What do I do? Because when you're deciding on things, you kind of want to make sure that you have a flow throughout your designs. So if you want particular colors, particular thickness of like frames around boxes or types of lines, you really want to try to keep things consistent throughout the planner. You don't have to, you can have some variation, but what you don't want it to look like is pages taken out of totally different planners all shoved together in one. You want to have some cohesiveness. So in step 6, when we're talking about the style and themes, this is more the aesthetic parts of it, right? So the colors, the fonts, the graphics you may want to include, the overall themes. Those are the types of things that you want to think about. Okay, so this is different than the format and different than the type, because you can have digital printed printable, you can have nursing student, you can have budget journal, you can have a fitness journal. But then even within those, you can have, say we're going to take a nursing student, you can have a 90s bright and fun themed nursing student planner. You can also have maybe a more neutral boho type theme. Some examples, you can have florals, neutrals, brights, or minimalist. You can have animals, hobbies, and interests. You can have states or regions. You can have any interests that you think that your customers might have. It's really limitless, so it's up to you to narrow it down. I am sorry for that, but that's why it could be overwhelming, because there's so many possibilities. But depending on your business, you may already be in a particular niche or area, or your business may have a style. Maybe it's more girly and you always have more soft colors that you use, and that'll help you narrow it down a little bit. So that's the themes. Again, you can research that the same way we did before. Just go out on the internet and look for ideas, and go on Pinterest and Etsy and so on and so forth. So hopefully by now you have an idea of like the type of planner you want. You've got it visualized in your head, and you're ready to start making that planner. Okay, so in our next episode number 3, we are going to be going over InDesign tips and tricks. And this is where I'm going to discuss and narrow down all the many tools that InDesign has, and give you just the ones that I think specifically for planners and journals that you need to know. So basically, we're going to cut out the fluff. We're going to cut out all the nonsense, and I'm going to give you my top 30 tips and tricks for creating planners and journals in InDesign. And in this video, I'm also going to give you a PDF that has shortcuts on it that I think are the most important ones to know for planner and journal design. You can find cheat sheets for InDesign all over the internet. However, they can be very lengthy and have a lot in them, because there's so much to do in InDesign. This cheat sheet will be specifically for the most important ones. So with that being said, if you don't have InDesign, okay, let me do my little spiel here real quick. So if you don't have InDesign, it's going to be pretty difficult to follow along with this series. So that being said, there is a link down in my description. As of filming right now, Adobe's offering a 7-day free trial. You can either sign up for just InDesign, or you can get the Creative Cloud, which is going to have all, well, not all, but majority of Adobe's programs like Photoshop and Illustrator and Premiere Pro, and the Premiere version or premium version of Adobe Express, and many more. Why would you need those, you might be asking, but if you're creating a business, you are going to have to do your marketing. You're going to have to create listing photos, videos, and all types of things you're going to do in order to sell your planners. And all of these programs will help you do that. Not to mention, if you want to create some graphics yourself or your covers yourself for your planners, a lot of these other programs will help you with that as well. So if you want all of them, there's the Creative Cloud. I believe it's $59.99 a month right now. It's cheaper if you pay for it for the year, but you can get your 7-day free trial and try it out. Now, I want to let you know that if you use the link in my description, it is an affiliate link. I may get a small commission for it. It's not going to cost you anything, but it really helps me out because I spend a lot of time and effort creating these free videos and tutorials for you. So it's just a little way that you could say thank you, and I say thank you and really appreciate it. With that out of the way, and make sure you go in either way, whether you're using my link or not, make sure you get InDesign so you can follow along and create your own planner. And I will see you in the next episode when we go through all of the most important tips and tricks. It's going to be fun.